We're very excited that the Encounters Level 2 is up. Some people have already started using it, and in the past few weeks, until the video went up on the website, I've been hand-holding them, sending them stuff because they've been anxious to use it. And so Encounters works for millennial learners and college and university and high school people. Very excited about it. And let's see, it builds on level 1. It's a skills-based set, the whole series is. And level 1 aimed at taking people through the novice level where students are, where learners are speaking in words and phrases, to the intermediate level. And the intermediate level is wider, more challenging than the novice level. So the level 2 is designed to take students through the intermediate level, where they're interacting in words and in phrases, in sentences, in full sentences, in many more contexts. So they'll be staying at the intermediate level a long time, and we're hoping, moving through the intermediate level towards the advanced level. So they're working we hope, in sentences that become more complex. They'll be able to meet more and more and more survival needs. They can have more facility to interact with people and to allow people to get to know you better. So testing is always a huge deal for our profession, and we'll need to do lots and lots and lots of testing, but we're hoping that by the end of level 1, students reach intermediate, novice mid to intermediate low, and I think that anecdotal evidence bears this out. Classrooms that have been using it, students are doing that. There, at either end of the scale on level 1, there's students who don't reach that and students that exceed it. So by the end of level 1, some students are still novice low, but other people have gone on to intermediate mid, and even a couple intermediate high. In my own classes, I've seen a couple reach intermediate high. But by the end of level 2, students, the bulk of students, we're hoping, will reach intermediate mid to intermediate high. So much of it depends on, student motivation and student capacity as well. So that's really not up, that so much of it is up to the student themselves. On the HSK scale, this is roughly equivalent to HSK 1 and 2 for level 1, 2, and 3 for level 2. And the series is designed so that after 2 years of encounters, students should score 3 or higher on the AP Chinese exam. So and all of Encounters is the set out point, the point of departure was standards based. So all along, our goal for the intermediate level has been solidly in the middle of the intermediate range, moving towards intermediate high. So what that means is students who are working with Encounters 2 are practicing getting into, through, and out of. This is from OPI tester scenarios, into, through, and out of a wide range of survival situations, such as going to a health clinic, opening a bank account, getting a haircut, such things. Situations related to daily life. Into, through, and out of means walking in, saying, hello, I'm here, what I need is da-da-da, and then you do all your interaction. If you're finally satisfied, you say, thank you very much, this is my last question, and close down the interaction and leave. So that's what into, through, and out of means. So whoops, what happened to my arrow? The arrow moved high. If you see the actual the graphic on the right, that red arrow could you please pull it down a couple notches? We're aiming it at between intermediate and mid and intermediate high. Somehow that got the technology is a little more ambitious than we can be. But so the functions were working solidly in intermediate, pushing towards advanced. So we're working with asking and answering questions, interacting consistently in sentences, creating with the language, meaning if you run into a situation in which you've never been before based on your textbook, you've never actually been in that situation in the textbook, but you have enough language that you can create. You can come up with new sentences, new expressions that you've never seen before, but you have the facility to do it. And you're pushing towards advance. We're not working in advance. We're pushing towards advance, which means you're becoming exposed to narration and description. So becoming exposed to it, you can see it happen, and you're beginning to do it a little bit yourself. But I think it's too ambitious to think that students should all be able to do the advanced tasks. A couple may be able to. The very motivated, very good language learners, they may be able to do that. But that's not our solid hope. I'm going to talk just a little bit about this graph. I found it in a document prepared by Aline Germain Rutherford of Middlebury Language Schools, and I like it very much. I think it's a very good conceptualization of a lot of what is in the literature, in the second language studies literature these days. And this graph says that for optimal language learning to occur, there has to be 5 elements that are paid attention to in the language instruction. And I'm going to talk about this a little bit and then take us through encounters, level 2 in specific, and see and discuss how we've paid attention to these in designing the curriculum, and how the teacher can use encounters to pay attention to each of these elements. Excuse me. So the first element is attitudes. Yeah, 文化认同态度. So 态度 is the attitudes is very important. Some people say that attitudes is the most important. That if the student has the right attitude, they can learn in any context. And if the student has the wrong attitude, it doesn't matter what you do, they're not going to learn very well. So just very quickly, I'm going to go through the 5 attitudes, and then we'll look at them in more detail. So one is attitudes. Okay, another is some people like Stephen Krashen, for example, says that as long as you provide comprehensible input in a language training program, 可理解输入, you don't need anything else. The students will do all the rest automatically. Tons and tons and tons of comprehensible input. But then, according to this model, and differing from people like Stephen Krashen, we also believe that you need interaction. You need to give students an opportunity to work with the material, to use it, to make and confirm hypotheses and stuff like that. And then, once they have you know, a little more stuff under their belt, you can push them. You can push them to come up with output that they wouldn't have come up with on their own. But if you push them, they can do it, and in doing it, they will have learned more. And then as a final step, whenever students notice new things about the language, about new vocabulary, about grammar, about pronunciation, about flow of speech, whatever, when they notice it, that's the best time to focus on it. It's also called focus on form. You focus on it and you say, did you notice that Chinese is a subject-verb-object language? 我要那个, so subject-verb-object. But that happens after you've done everything else, after you had comprehensible input, negotiated interaction, pushed output, and then you have a focus on form. The research shows that that's the best time to introduce it. If you introduce it early, the students aren't ready for it, and it just flies right by them. It doesn't sink in. Okay, so we're going to look at each of these elements in a little more detail. So number one was acculturated attitudes. That means that we have to interest the student in a target culture. If they're learning Chinese, they have to be interested in China. They have to think that Chinese culture, they have to know something about it. They have to know something real about it. In order to motivate them to learn. We have to engage the student sympathetically with a target culture, meaning they have to think, China's pretty cool. China's got lots to offer, and I should learn Chinese. Okay, and then we have to make sure that the student has realistic expectations of learning the language. So they have to want to learn, and they have to be ready, ready to learn, and they have to know this is how far I can get if I do this. So this encounter is not like the programs that advertise on TV that say, give us a month and you'll become fluent. That's not going to happen. Anyway, so we want them to have realistic expectations. So in encounters, to engage the students with the target culture, Encounters has spent so much getting together video that's got a story, so an episodic video, and a documentary style video that's interviews and location shoots, trying to get to know the culture. So all the video, I mean, you can't argue that the best way to learn a language is to be there. If you just live there, you'll learn it very fast. But if you can't be there, the video is a way of bringing here. So we bring China to your classroom. And the reason why, if you look at the top left picture, we have all these different kinds of people in the episodic series, is because we want our learners to identify, to see themselves in China, living the way that these people do. So from the left, we have a sort of a Caucasian American learner of Chinese. In the middle, that's Mick. He is actually Australian. The actor actually is Australian. He does live in China. He does actually have this tea house called the Hutong, where he does training. He does actually ride his bike all around China looking for tea. Mick in the series actually is playing himself. He's playing a real person. And then the next person over is a Chinese American, because we can't forget that half of our students are ethnically Chinese, trying to learn Chinese. And then, of course, we have lots of many real Chinese. And Professor Mao, the last person to the right in that picture, he's wonderful. He's actually a college professor. He actually teaches speech and diction and communication. And so we have found him wonderful for this series in being natural and yet being very clear. And then if you go one over to the right, Fang Lan plays a Chinese student. Okay, so then we have real people like the lower right corner. That's a real doctor in a real clinic. And so, and he portrays how he would interact with a patient when they come in with problems. And then if you move one to the left, in a sports unit, what is China famous for sports? Wushu. So we have a brief introduction to Wushu that sort of thing. So all of this, and something that's challenging for teachers who are not used to our approach, they see all of this, they say, it's too much. How can you expect students to, you know, digest all of this stuff that Encounters offers? Well, what's the metaphor I've been using recently is a buffet table. You know, if you go to a wonderful buffet table at a 5-star hotel, you know, there's so much food and such a wide range of food. You're not supposed to eat it all. You're just supposed to look at it and take what you want to and can digest from it, and you select pieces of it to meet your needs. Okay, and then you can come back another day and take more, but you're not supposed to eat it all at one sitting. The contrast I make is between this wonderful buffet table versus a pack of instant noodles. Our teachers, our learners are used to being given a pack of instant noodles. Here, boil this and eat it, and that's what you get. Yes, I can eat it. I can, you know, that's a small amount. But Encounters is more like the buffet table. We're giving you so much stuff, and take what you need. But anyway, so the video and everything else, it's supposed to help acculturate their attitudes, to make them interested, to make them love China, to make them want to come back to the textbook and to class, and to make them realize how much they have to invest in learning Chinese. So with Acculturated Attitudes in the textbook, for this screen is to focus on giving them realistic expectations. Okay, so this is all my examples from level 2 are from level unit 21. Excuse me. It's early in the morning in Hawaii, and I still have a frog in my throat. So at the beginning and at the end of every unit, you're given a list of what we call can-do statements. Can-do statements. So in this unit, you will ask about, provide details about personal background, recap past connections with people you know, comment on details, that sort of thing. Write a brief note about your experience learning Chinese. Very specific things. Okay, so the can-do statements basically say, this is what we're focusing on as we move through this unit. If you can do these things, then you have successfully taken from this unit what we hoped you would. So at the end of the unit, you'll see a checklist of can-do statements. Can you ask someone about his or her personal background? So, like, 你从哪儿来? 你学了几年中文? 你家里都有什么人? 你有什么爱好? All of that, that's all his or her personal background. Tell them several details about your own background. So this is going to be different for every student. 我家里只有我们3个人，我学了1年中文. That stuff. 或者我学了2年中文. It's different for every student. And when teachers often ask me, so how do you test with Encounters? The can-do statements are very good clues to the test. So tell several details about your own background. Can you do it? I don't know if you know this program called Linguafolio. That is a sort of it's a portfolio. It's an electronic portfolio of what you can do. So you can record yourself. Tell several details about your own background. The students can record themselves talking about themselves. Remember, we're thinking this is intermediate, so we're thinking that students will maybe say 3 to, I don't know, 10, 3, 4, 5, 6 sentences about themselves. 我学了1年中文，我说的不好，我写的不好，我喜欢学中文，我去过中国，我还想去中国，that sort of thing. So they can record it and put it on Linguafolio, and then it's proof that they can do these statements. For example, under reading and writing, decipher some traffic directional and that kind of sign, and well, you can give them these signs, and you can ask them what it means, like we'll have an example of that later. So if they can do these statements, then they are passing the test. And even though you know, some students might give you very skimpy skeletal sentence, other students will give you much richer sentences. Okay, you can rate those, you can grade those the way you want. But I would say that if they can do it, if we say that this is our goal and they've met it, then they should get full credit. Anyway, this is how I would grade. Second element, comprehensible input. So provide culturally authentic input at the I+1 level. And I+1, basically, it means I is where the student is functioning independently right now. If nobody were there and they had to interact in Chinese, I is what they can produce right now. Independent function. And +1 means just beyond. Not +5, that's too high. Not -1, that's boring. So where it's I+1 level. And the input has to be interesting, meaningful, pertinent. And so we use anything we can to make the input comprehensible, and we have to provide input through both listening and reading. So all the video, both the storyline and the documentary series, is aiming to provide culturally authentic input. And the tasks, the exercises, you know, the whole textbook is a series of things students have to do. Okay, it's all about big can-dos and little can-dos. So here it would be, can I complete this exercise? Because research shows if they do something to get their information, they learn it. If you just give it to them, it's a waste of time. They don't learn it. So this textbook does not begin every unit with a vocabulary list, like most textbooks do. Because the literature shows if they derive the vocabulary list, if they figure out the new vocabulary, they'll learn it. If you just give it to them, it's a waste of time. It's like people like to do puzzles. They like, when they read mysteries, they like to try to figure out what the ending is. If you give them the ending at the beginning, it's a waste of time, and they don't like it. They don't even want to do it anymore. But if the whole curriculum is a journey through puzzling out and figuring out, it's more interesting. So here, this task, 21.2, it says view episode 1, vignette 1, which is just, you know, 2-3 minutes of an interaction, maybe longer than that. Maybe it was like, this one maybe was like 5-7 minutes of an interaction between these people and Mick. So write in English 2 facts you learn about each of the characters below. Okay, so people might write different things. So what do you find out by listening to this conversation about Xiaomao, about Luo Xueting, about Mike, about Lin? And the blue is from the teacher's volume, the teacher's support text. Those are the answers. Those are some answers. So what you can find out about Xiaomao is that he's Luo Xueting's fiancé, that he's teaching at a university. This is a new job, that he's enrolled in a cooking class, etc. Okay, and the one that's in the lower right corner, Lin is away on business. We put it in for you because for the student, because it explains why she's not there, but it's something that the student likely couldn't understand. The level is is more than I+1. So anyway, we've just put it in there. We're not expecting that they'll learn it, but it's just interesting. Okay, so that's comprehensible input. Now, comprehensible input through reading, the reading curriculum, like Unit 21, we have different kinds of reading for the students, and this is one of them. So following notes written by Chinese language students about their own language learning backgrounds. This whole unit is about getting to know people a little more, So we're assuming that this is Unit 21. It's the beginning of a second-year course. They've studied Chinese for a year. They've been away, and now they've got new classmates, and they want to get to know each other. Okay. So highlight the parts you can understand. That is something that is a little different than how reading is normally approached. Very often people say, read it and highlight what you can't understand. We're assuming that there's going to be things here they cannot understand, but we're more interested in what they can understand. So highlight what you can understand and just skip over what you can't understand. For example, 我父母是中国人. Probably they can understand that. 我生在 blank blank. Probably they can understand that. Okay, but so they don't highlight it and then they go reading the rest of it. 我们一家人在我6岁的时候来到美国. They should probably be able to understand most of that. Okay. And so they're highlighting the parts they can understand, and then they look at the pictures. Chongqing is right there, and maybe they'll match it up and realize that, oh, A is talking about Chongqing, and then some of the others are talking about Feicheng, Sanfanzhi. Okay. For comprehensible input, we also have stuff like this. So here, this is basically new vocabulary, or not, maybe not new vocabulary, but old vocabulary in a new context. Did you realize that you'll see man on a triangular sign in China? What does it mean? Guess. So the student will probably guess, go slowly, because the stop sign isn't a triangle like that. And then the sign on the right, what does it mean? The student will probably guess yield based on background knowledge. And if the student can guess it, they have a 50% chance of getting it right anyway. If the student can guess it, they feel good about themselves, they feel smart, and if they guess it, it makes a little impression in their brains, and it sinks in better. Okay, 慢让 stuff like that. Okay, so then the next, so we hope they have the right attitude. We hope they understood some things. They've got this new stew on their head, in their heads about new hypotheses they're making about language from what they're hearing. We'll want to provide them an opportunity to work with what they're getting.
Cindy, so can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, I'm sorry to interrupt. It looks like something just popped up on top of your screen that right there. Could you click on the close, the white close link in the bottom right? Perfect. I'm sorry to interrupt. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yes.
I can't tell what you can and can't see.
Yes, that one we could see, but now we're back to just the presentation. So thank you. You're doing great.
Okay, thanks. So we want to provide opportunity for students to have meaningful interactions in the target language. Okay, they have to make, adjust, and confirm hypotheses. So it's all about what's happening inside the students' heads. It isn't about what we tell them. It's about what they're thinking, what they're assuming. So they've had all this comprehensible input. They have all these ideas. Oh, so if I want to express this, when they say that, that means this. And if I want to say this, this is how I should do it. So they have all these hypotheses. So we want them to adjust, to confirm them. And if it turns out they were wrong, they have to self-correct. They have to make their own new hypotheses. So we want students to develop conceptual, partial, and full control of language. This is actually a really important idea. The idea being that first students just get a sense of what it's all about, but they really can't do it. And then when they begin to interact with it, when you have a negotiated interaction, they begin to get partial control. Sometimes they get it right, sometimes they don't. And then after lots and lots and lots, 50, 100 times interacting with it, they'll gain full control of it. Some people, use the idea of learning how to ride a bicycle. You look at other people riding a bicycle and you get conceptual control. You see what it's about. balance on top of this thing. You get on yourself, you're beginning to develop partial control. You fall, you ride a little bit, you fall, you ride a little bit. It's partial control. And the more and more you practice, the better you get. The better and better you get at it until eventually you get full control. So for negotiated interaction, you'll see that in every encounter in the textbook, encounters will end with something like this one. Okay, so we've had all these exercises that introduce the language to you. You figured out some meaning. Now you have to try to use it. Okay, for this one, this is again Unit 21. Pretend that you and your classmate like Nick and Xiao Mao are meeting again after having known each other in the past. Try to figure out how you knew each other previously. Pretend, if necessary. Share some details about your lives now. Okay, repeat with more than one classmate so you can, if you give them 5 minutes, 10 minutes, they can do as many classmates as they can in the time available. And so we try to give them a little hand by saying, try out the sentences below, brainstorm more as appropriate. So we have to be able to create with a language, right? So some suggestions. 我好像认识你。我们怎么认识的？你不是上过1年级的中文课吗？你的名字叫 Amy， 对不对？ stuff like that. So here are some examples of what they could say, and then they have to figure out how they would answer, and they interact with each other. In the student evaluations I've had in the past, my students have regularly said that they like this portion of the class the best, and they want me to save them as much time as I can to allow them to do this, because in doing this, they're using what language they have. They love to get to know. I mean, it's all about social interaction, right? They love to get to know each other, and having an opportunity to do this motivates them to try to get as good as they can, because they want to do well in this portion of the class or with their classmates. So I try to save as much time, like 15 minutes, 20 minutes. Probably not much longer than that, maybe 15 minutes to allow them to move around and do this negotiated interaction part. So the next piece is pushed output. So they've had comprehensible input, they've had negotiated interaction. Can we push them to do a little more than they would do on their own? So provide opportunities to express their own meaning in speech and writing, provide opportunity for students to be creative. So pushed output, for example, Unit 21, prepare a brief presentation of how you came to be in this intermediate Chinese class. So take notes so you can deliver at least 3 sentences. If you feel your students can do more, make it 6 sentences. But this is challenging, right? So they're standing up in front, or you can have them do it in small groups. Okay, they're sort of making a presentation. So if you have a class of, 20 students, divide them into 5 groups of 4, and they're making a little presentation in front of 3 people. And then you can, call for volunteers to speak in front of the whole class. So they're stringing together as many sentences as they can, telling about themselves. Okay, so speech, and then writing, write a note. Okay, so you remember they had read notes written by other people about their own backgrounds. So what can you tell us about your previous experiences learning Chinese? And so they write a note. So let's see. I don't have it. I think I had once thought to try to show you some sample student writing, but I don't have one for this lesson, so I didn't save one for this lesson. So sorry. What I like to do is gather together all their notes, make all the corrections, make them rewrite it, type it, and submit it to me. Okay, so then I have a self-introduction by every student in the class. I just combine it all into one file, and it becomes further reading practice. Photocopy it, give it out one per student. I think in the past I've sort of whited out the names of the authors, and then they get all these student writing on a sheet of paper, and then they have to read it, and then they have to try to figure out who wrote every one. And so in the past I've had them get up and talk to each other and ask and answer questions based on student writing. So anyway, that's all pushed output. So we have that for every encounter in every unit in the series. And then afterwards, the final thing you do is focus on form. Okay? Focus on form means discern patterns and exceptions in grammar, vocabulary, pronunciation, character, and text formation. So the best time to focus on this stuff is after the students have had some interaction, have had some experience with these elements. So in encounters scattered throughout every unit, you'll see these grammar bits. Okay, 就 plus 是 plus 的，我就是的。Okay, and then we have a few exercises. For example, it's the music that attracted me. Oh, they put that in order. 我就是被那音乐吸引过来的。Okay, 我就是被那音乐吸引过来的。And then, so anyway, we do focus on form, but we do it afterwards. At the end of every unit, there's a recap. This is all the grammar that you've been exposed to in this unit. And did you notice? Okay, anyway, so, and then the vocabulary is there. We do provide a vocabulary list, but at the end of every unit, not at the beginning. So, you know, students can look through it and see and say, oh, I know Audalia. Oh, yeah, 小毛 said 棒. 风生水起. 小毛 said that, but they don't have to. They don't have to learn it. It's just there. Okay. So that's basically the guts of the encounters program. It includes, it's a 4 skills approach. We do listening, we do speaking, we do reading, we do writing. We do, everything is in a cultural context. We emphasize listening and speaking. Something that teachers often don't realize is they, especially a native speaker of Chinese who's teaching, they teach the way they learned. And the way they learned was they learned how to speak Chinese at home. They already could speak. And then when they come to class, they do a lot of reading and writing in class. And so many Chinese teachers spend too much time on reading and writing when what students really need is listening and speaking. If you ask them, what do you want to get out of your Chinese course, many of them will say, I want to know how to speak Chinese and to interact with people. They really need to learn that because they don't have opportunities outside of class to do that. So anyway, this series emphasizes listening and speaking. Books 3 and 4 integrate content from the dramatic series, which was filmed in Beijing. And we hope that students will find that they are able to understand more of the language used than previously. In Encounters 1, if they could understand just a little bit of what was going on screen, they were lucky. But now I hope that they'll find that they can understand, not all, you can't expect them to understand all, but a higher percentage of what is being said. So it's useful for training in comprehension. Okay. Level 2 is wonderful. So it takes you further afield in daily life. You visit health clinics, you find out about using banking, you go to a beauty salon, you shop for a cell phone, you go visit a shopping mall, and you get deeper into dealing with other people, because dealing with personal relationships is a very important part of life, especially for young people. And an innovation introduced in book 3 is that every lesson will include a full story. I've been really experimenting with storytelling. People say that stories is really where it's all at. So every unit now will have a story, and we encourage students to write their own stories. So if students write their own stories and the teachers correct them and they rewrite them, you can really make that into more for this buffet table. You can put it on the buffet table. Students can read their own each other's stories. In fact, the Encounters website, I think, will be collecting stories written by students based on Encounters. We already have a few, and they're wonderful. I think students love to read each other's stories, and we read them multiple times. So, and I remember with my students, when a story came up, I remember hearing students say, "Hi, that one was a good one. You remember that one?" So we reread it. Okay, so stories. Book 4 explores more facets of modern life. We go to a bookstore, we look at TV and film media, we surf the internet, we discuss sporting events and other things. And so, yeah, and the stories continue. So we're not providing a workbook. There's so much online. Anyway, so there's a Encounters character training app that you can use now to work with characters. So these photographs are from a, let's see, the teacher who wrote the instructor's annotated edition of Encounters has been using Encounters too for a year, and these are some of her students. And the picture on the left, they wrote their own stories. They wrote and illustrated their own stories, and then they created their own little storybooks. And so, yeah, she actually, we were hoping that they could join us on this webinar, but I think one thing that she told me was that it's because it's a very small school, she ends up with many different levels of students in the same classroom. So she uses Encounters for all of them. For some of the most advanced levels, she just sets them an assignment and said, "Go do listen to the video, do it on your own." And then she works with some of the more, some of the people who need help. So she's using it for, I think, something like levels 2, 3, and 4, something like that. Okay. Does somebody else want to take over this slide and maybe talk about that? It's self-explanatory, I think, but
yeah, this is just our pricing with the updated with the the Kia workbook, which is coming out probably for book 2 will be coming out probably in May, and so we'll have the student bundle for then as well. Then the next slide.
Yes. So, I mean, if anyone has any questions about that pricing sheet or about really anything that Cindy has presented on thus far, feel free to type it in. There's a question box in the go-to webinar panel on your right. Oh, it looks like we're getting questions now, which is great. We will read them and then pass them along to Cindy. But I'd also like to maybe show a bit, Cindy, if it's okay, I'd like to show just a bit of the level 2 video and audio on the website, maybe at the end of your presentation, just so people know how to access that and what it looks like.
Go ahead.
Okay, great. Well, actually, we are getting, we have a few questions from someone on our end. Jane says, since Encounters focuses on a can-do approach, Cindy, can you share more on testing of tasks, such as students recording themselves? What other ways do you evaluate an accomplished task? And how do you evaluate students, since the recap at the end of the chapter may be a bit general? So Cindy, maybe could you talk just for a second, as I pull up the website, could you talk for a second about how you evaluate your students and their performance of the various tasks listed throughout the student books?
So basically, we test how we teach. And personally, I like to test every day. So in my class, the first 5-10 minutes of the class is just a very short quiz. And, you know, something I tell the students is that language learning is like lifting weights. It's practicing to lift weights. You have to do it every day. You can't spend 3 hours cramming before the test and hope you'll do well. You have to give your brain neurons time to build the right pathways. So you have to do it every day. So I quiz every day. And so we basically quiz on the can-dos. So rather than you can have students record themselves and you could listen to it, that's one way, or I have them write pinyin. So if they have to produce language, I almost always give them the option. If they have to produce language and they're doing it in writing, and it's a focus on listening, speaking, I usually give them the option of writing either in pinyin or in characters. Okay. If it's a testing of writing, then of course they can only write in characters. And my students can write either in traditional or in simplified. You may know already from Encounters Level 1 that we require students to read both traditional and simplified from the very beginning. No student has ever complained. No student has ever said it's too hard. The students do say, oh my God, there's 2 different forms, but then they do it. And then they pick one or the other to write. Okay. So for example, if I'm testing reading, and yesterday, for example, we worked on say something about how you learn Chinese. So the next morning I may come back and one question might be, if you want to find out more about somebody's background, what would you ask them? Write the question. So then the students would write out a question, whatever they want. For example, 你学了几年的中文？你在哪儿学的中文？你从哪里来的？ Anything they want to know about, more about the background. So they write a question, or you can say write 3 questions or write 5 questions, and then you grade them on how well they write the questions. Okay. And then you can say, if somebody asked you that question, how would you answer? Write 3 statements about your own background. Okay, so then they could write, 我在北京学了一个夏天, or something like that. And so you rate there, and you can develop a little rubric. You develop your own sense of how you want to rate them. If it's communicative, if they've done the task, they've written a question that asks about the background, and it's comprehensible, it's probably you're going to give them pretty high points. If they're not comprehensible, it doesn't make any sense what they've written, you give them low points. or if you can understand but there's errors, then you give them something in the middle, so you develop your own rubric for that. And if it's reading and you give them a little paragraph and you say, let's say this is a paragraph written by somebody who's introducing their own language learning background. Okay, write in English 3 statements about what you understand about their language learning background. So even if they don't understand specific words, if they can get the general gist of what the person is writing, then you give them high points. Right? If they don't understand much at all, then you give them low points. But if they understand some, but they have something wrong, you give them something in the middle. Okay. Anyway, so the can-dos can drive your testing. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. Thank you so much, Cindy. And the other question from Jane, and this one I can answer, is can the videos be purchased separately? And right now the answer is no. The videos can't be purchased separately, although students and independent learners can buy access to the website independently of a student book. So if someone did just want, and all of the audio, all of the video, all of the media is on the website. So if you wanted to access, wanted to buy access to just the Student Book 1 videos, you could purchase a website access code just for Student Book 1. And all of that is available. I mean, all of the codes are available in this How to Buy section, which is accessible at the top center of the page. But no, we don't sell the videos separately on a DVD, but there's certainly, you can purchase access or acquire access to the website in a number of ways.
And when you get access, you get 24 months for $19.99.
Right. Yes, that's 2 years. And so I'm so appreciative of Cindy walking us through level 2. Thank you so much, Cindy. I'm going to very quickly, I know we're approaching the hour, I'm going to very quickly show where level 2 is on the website. And if anyone has any other questions, please feel free to type them in, or you can contact us after the fact at encounters.chinese@yale.edu. But we will, hopefully this won't go from another maybe 5 minutes, but I'm going to show where the level 2 media is on the Encounters website. So here's the Encounters homepage, and everyone here is an instructor. So if you need an instructor account, if you haven't already registered, click on the Create an Account tab and request instructor access. But since you all are instructors, you click on Login and log into your account, and you'll be taken to a homepage that has the list of the table of contents for each student book. So by default, you'll see Student Book 1, but simply click on the name of the student book underneath Student Book 1 to see the corresponding table of contents. So to get to the Student Book 3 media, I've clicked on Student Book 3, and now I'm going to go to Unit 21, which is the first unit in Student Book 3. And I'll be taken to a landing page that has links to all of the different media, all the different online information about this unit, this chapter in Student Book 3. The video components are each chapter has 2 vignettes, which are those videos that were filmed on location in China, as Cindy was talking about. They have subtitles that are on their way in English, Pinyin, simplified, and traditional characters. And there are 2 per chapter. And then to work your way through the rest of the media, each of which, both the audio and the video, is associated with a specific exercise in the student book. Just either use the navigation on the left side of the screen, or you can click on the previous and next links underneath the players in the center of the screen. And we have the text from the student books that correspond to this media. So if we go to exercise 21.4, we'll see the video associated with that exercise, as well as the text in the student book that is related to the exercise, that references that task, the various tasks that make up the Encounters program, as Cindy was talking about. And each unit in Student Books 3 and 4 follow this exact same structure. If I go to the table of contents and then go to, say, Unit 28, it's going to be the same thing. I've got my 2 vignettes and the audio and the video, as well as the cultural mini documentary, which is the documentary also filmed on location in China. This is a very similar, really actually the same layout as the Student Book 1 and 2 material. So if you've seen that, this should be familiar. But this is where it all is. We have lesson planning pages for each unit, just like with Student Books 1 and 2, that have scope and sequence. And if we have any quizzes or we have any other information that helps students teach or help instructors teach with these units, that will be located there in this lesson planning area. And any other supplemental student links to the character writing app, to online dictionaries, to the online workbook. So these are the kind of landing pages for everything associated with this student book on the website. So again, you log into your instructor account, and you're taken to this home page with the various table of contents. You click on Student Book 3 or Student Book 4, and then you just go to the appropriate unit. So if anyone has, Cindy, before I wrap up, is there anything that you want to say about the media itself, or about the audio, the video? You've already covered a lot in the past hour, but I want to give you the final word, since you're the author and this is your presentation.
Oh, it's so exciting. I'm seeing the media up for the first time. I can't wait to explore the website a little more. And there's more stuff coming. I guess as more people start using it and more useful stuff is developed, like for lesson planning and reality image bank and stuff like that, more will be added to the website. Yeah, yeah. I wish I had this my whole career.
Well, wonderful. Well, Cindy, thank you again for presenting. I so appreciate it. I know, especially since it's so early in Hawaii. So we will make sure to put the video recording of this presentation on the Encounters YouTube channel.
Yep.
And Dawn, is there anything that you want to follow up with for these instructors?
Nope. If you have any questions, really, feel free to reach out to us at encounters.chinese@yale.edu.
And that's also accessible on the contacts page on the Encounters website. Okay, well, Cindy, thank you again. Thank you to everyone that participated and attended, and we will be in touch.
Thank you.
Thank you, Cindy. Bye.
Okay.
Thank you, everybody.